are a lot of benefit and you wanted to get that you will request the expansion, right? The upgrade basically. So that's the upgrade process on top of the land and expand, which is initial sales,
Yeah,
right?
makes sense. I was getting confused with adding seed, but it's related to the product upgrade.
No, that's yeah, that basically the adding the seed is that you adding the quantity.
Hmm.
So in that case, it is kind of the expansion, but same tier,
Yeah, tier
the
is same.
same tier, right? If you want to get the upgraded tier, that is what the upgrade tier, right?
Got it.
So it is just a quantity, you will get added the quantity, but you will not get the added benefit which has the most recent version.
Yeah, got it.
That's the difference, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm assuming that we can drill down a little bit more. So today we're going to be discuss like what are the pricing challenge in the modern enterprise level. What is the traditional discount? What is the AI driven discount, right? And then architecture. I will walk you through the architecture of the AI pricing, and then very high level. We are not going to do any technical or the code level the integration. That will be the phase two, I would say definitely. But I will walk you through high level CPU integration with the AI and SFDC, and then finally we can just why we are doing that, what is the business outcome, and then what are the uh, takeaways basically. Okay, so first of all, right, we have the sales process. Now it's the time of the renewal, right? So I'm the renewal. I'm thinking about the traditional way. I'm just trying to explain the traditional way and what are the friction gaps, right? So let's say you are the renewal rep. You wanted to be renew your product, right? Of course, the previous sales was, let's say, 3 years, right? And you sold that for the $100, right? Just one quantity hypothetically. Now you cannot sell the same product after 3 years with the same price, right? There is inflation. There are a lot of logistic behind that. So what that, right? So that for that renewal need to maintain so many spreadsheet traditionally, right? What that spreadsheet is like, what that product is performing, right? So that product may be very popular in the region, America region, let's say, but it may not be in a APEC or EMEA, right? So you need to be have that product analysis as well, a history up to whatever that 3 years, 5 years, right? In my use cases, I took the all 12 quarter of data basically. That means 3 years of the data, right? So rep has to be maintain all those history, plus he has to know that what is my region level guidance, right? That means if I wanted to renew that product, what is my region level guidance? That means if America region is so popular, what would be the discount, right? Versus is APAC, it is not that popular, how I can make it popular? That means I have to either present the more discount or give something so I can win that deal, right? This is an analysis revenue rep or RQ rep, basically need to have that. And then plus, right, he need to make sure that I have different partner. So basically, right, you may have the different partner, right? Enterprise level, I need to make sure that if I quote one X partner, I have to quote the same for the Y partner as well, right? Otherwise, there will be the conflict of interest as well. Otherwise, we maybe lose that customer, right? So basically, consistency has to be there, right? And then when I say that I need to data will be the silo. Why what that does mean, like my spreadsheet, if I am the revenue rep or the RQ rep, that spreadsheet with me, that analysis with me only, right? Not necessary my colleagues have the same understanding, right? He may have his own data, his own analysis, right? His own guidance basically, region level or the company wide level, right? So those data are silos, and that is what leading the variance of the discount, right? So one rep can give the different discount for the same product, other can give the different, right? That is also the friction that will create a lot of friction. And then complexity competitiveness, right? So if I giving the different discount to the different partner, right, ultimately we are losing the competitiveness, right? Because maybe some other from other company, my competitor, they might be giving the better than that, right? So because I don't have any universal guidance, right? Those are the friction gap, and those are the pain points currently renewal rep has right now, if they wanted to do the traditional way of the revenue, right? So for that, what we are trying to do here, again, this is just the same comparison, right? The what traditional versus the AI driven, right? What rep is maintaining all those spreadsheet, right? all those product analysis, historical data, right? Plus the any discount guidance, company level discount guidance. There are so many attributes we are providing to the AI algorithm, right? All those are the machine learning. So it is not a static, right? It is a machine learning. That means every time agent learn that based on the if conditions, right? What if condition, right? What if the guidance is X as an example, right? But the performance is low in that region, right? So AI will learn that, right? AI will not just randomly make a query, right? So this is what the predictive machine learning we have added there. And then segmentation, right? Customer segmentation as example, right? As I said, let's take example of Walmart, right? If my product bought by Walmart 10 times, right, in last 2 years, versus let's say any other Costco, right? They just bought it one time, right? So I cannot have the same analysis put it for because I wanted to also sell it for the Costco as well, right? So that is what the AI will make a decision based on the input. It will not like a static everywhere, right? Compared to the traditional way. That is what the machine learning and the customer segmentation. And again, the what is the real time signals that I can help a little bit next. But let me just take a little pause. I know I'm going a little faster, but let me just take a pause. And anyone has any question on the process?
Hey, online, if you have any questions, just post it here, okay? There are a couple more people online.
Okay, this is the architecture basically, right? The architecture is like, we have the data layer. We have so many ERPs, right? Some people are use CRM, some Oracle ERP, some maybe Dynamic, right? There are multiple CRP. This solution works for all CRM, not only the yeah, coming. So this solution will work for the all, right? So what is the data layer? Basically, as I said, we are going to be evaluate the history of that product because we need to put some intelligence on that product, right? So in the data layer, we'll collect the all history of that product basically by the customer, by the region, by the global, all those data layer. We will collect all those information, right, from the different sources. Some may have the MDM data, some may have the CRM data, and then after that, right, we're going to put that in an intelligence layer, right? So here we our secret sauce is like intelligence layer and then the modeling layer, right? So where what we're going to do, right, in this stage we're going to be extract the almost 3 years. I'm at least in my use case, I'm taking the 12 quarters of data, right? That means the 3 years of data of that product, right, for the every customer, right? And then I'm putting the product performance intelligence very first, right? That how that product is doing, right? How many customers that product has bought, right? What is the region analysis, right? Which region is most popular, right, compared to the other region, right? All those product level performance intelligence we are putting on top of that historical data. And then we are defining the burp, right? So I will explain what is the burp. Basically, to come up with the any burp product, right, we have to have the base unit price. So or the burp, right? The base unit price is what, right? Initially, and in our initial land and expand, we sold it at $100 in our example, right? But I cannot sell it at again $100, right? I have to put the uplifting, right? So in a renewal, we always put the uplifting, right? That uplifting may be 10%, 5% based on the AI, right? That is what we're going to be put it that uplifting, right? And then we're going to be compare the actual burp, actual base unit price versus the AI comes the right, that comparison. That is what we're going to be put in this model layer basically. And then finally, all those recipes will prepare that and we'll just serve that to the renewal rep, right? So if you remember, renewal rep has to maintain so many spreadsheet. He has to do the product analysis, company analysis, right? How is that product perform? All those will not required because at the with the CPQ integration, we're going to serve that recommendation to the CPQ tool, right? Because we said, hey, you don't do that, we'll do that. AI will do that for you, and here is your right? This is what the high level architecture where we'll pull all the data, we'll do our secret sauce, which is our AI layer, and then based on all those machine learning analysis, we'll recommend that renewal, the pricing, as well as the discount. And then renewal rep is just need to be put the quantity term, and that's it. He's done with that code, right? So that is how the high level architecture. I think we may have any question here. Let me just pause. Yes, so basically, right, that's a very good question, and I was expecting that. So as I said, initially we have the land and expand, which is the initial sales, right? From the initial sales, we have the history that these products we sold to the Walmart or the Costco or any, right? What was the last sold discount? What was the last sold term, right? All those information we have from the initial land and expand, right? So this data we have somewhere because AI needed data to learn that, right? So that is how we store that data from the initial land and expand deal. CPQ, I mean the SFDC. So yeah, so let me just tell you that every sales order we created from the land and expand, right? We take that sales order and we created the pricing profile, right? That pricing profile is for the by the customer and by the product, right? So that means every enterprise level customer, we will have the product sold, and that product I have that actually. I will explain that as well. But that pricing profile we built within SFDC basically. So that means every sales basically we have the pricing profile created, and that pricing profile for by customer we also have the product level history, right? As example, Walmart, this customer, let's say AOS, I'm just hypothetically taking one product, right? AOS is bought by the Walmart how many times? So every time they bought that product, we added as active profile. We added that data layer, right, every time, and then in the old record we make it inactive, right? So that helps AI to learn all those discount. Every time we have a
Trend, okay.
discount, what pricing we have given, and those data will be stored in the SFDC as soon as we win that deal, right, from the initial land and expand, after the renewal and the renewals of renewals as well, or even the upgrade or expand as well. So every time we win that deal, we're storing that data, and that data help us every time to present the new guidance every time they interested on the same product.
So Salesforce is your
Salesforce is my
main
yes,
record,
yes,
a system of record.
yes.
And in Salesforce, are you using Data Cloud or anything, or just like a
Yeah, we are using data cloud for that.
okay?
Yes.
So Sandeep, we don't use CPQ.
Mhm.
We have Zora for voting purposes. Then this
Yes,
model.
subscription billing. We also use the Zora for subscription billing.
Yeah.
But yes, this, as I said, this framework works any CPQ tool, works any CRM, right? This is a framework you can integrate with the anything. Yes.
That's my question. So it's real time, right? The agent is analyzing it real time.
Yes, it is real time.
So then sometimes the order doesn't go through on the same day. Right? So the next day it might have changed.
Yes. So basically, this is we are not talking about the order, right? Before order, the code is important, right? So
So is there a way to lock it?
yes, yes, there is a way to lock it as well, right? But in a code is a legal document. You know that, right? Code is a legal document. Once you lock it code, the customer has to be agree that it is not that code will be voided, right? We can cancel it out, right? But code is the legal document basically, right? Once they approve it, right? But here we're not talking about the order. Order later, right? Code comes always code comes first. So here all those analysis to real time at the time of the creation of the code, right? Because that code has been generated based on all those analyses, and then you present that code to the customer, and then hey, do you agree with that one? And then there will be negotiation. It's not like always customer likes your code, right? There will be negotiation always. They will say, hey, this is what my analysis. I think in this zone, I'm not agree with the 15%. Give me the like 20%, right? So those negotiations always there. In that case, we can just it will be rejected by the end customer. We can just put it, overridden. That is also overridden facility will also given that, and there is a couple of overridden as well. And then new code will be generated, version 2 will be generated, and that will be shared that way. But again, we will have the risk is here, like we will have the AI given um, guidance, right? That means AI will give me the alert, right? Hey, you should not go beyond that one. Otherwise, company will lose the money, right? So I have the threshold given by that. I cannot go beyond that. Otherwise, my code will be rejected by the either deal desk or the regional manager or maybe finance if that's big deal, right? You know that all code goes to the certain approval process, right? It start with the the very first gatekeeper is the deal desk, right? And then they goes to the regional manager or the vice president, or maybe finally the finance team, right? So if I go below that threshold, of course my quote will be get rejected because they will say that you're giving too much discount to the customer. Company is losing that, right? So this risk will not be there if you do give that real time.
And then competitors' data can be entered too, or is it going to on its own search for it?
Yes, that's a very good question, right? So that's what we have the product performance analysis, right? That's what we have the all customers, right? When we get that product, let's say we have the one of the product. Let me just see if I have that next slide. Okay, I'll just have that as example. Let me just walk through first, right? So here, if you, I see, right? So as example, this is what your question, Manoj. This is how we build the profile. This is just to store the all history, right? If you see that one of the my product, and you will see the two column, right? What is the work actual and what is the work normalized, right? So this is the analysis done by the AI, and this is what the gap. Look at the gap, how the actual work based on the traditional way. What is the recommendation by the AI, and this at the bottom you will see the history of the all the product. That means I took the Walmart as a customer, and this is what all my history. This in this example, Walmart bought this product 4 times, right? And then all those are history we maintain that. That's what we feed to the AI. And then of course the most recent transaction is what's last sold, right? Based on that, we give that the recommended burp, and this recommended burp will be served to the CPQ system, right?
Where is this getting displayed in Salesforce? On the code level?
No, this is customer pricing profile. This is not visible to anyone. This is the recipe. I'm just showing that because just to understand that.
If I'm the rep,
Yes.
where will I see it?
Yeah, they will see it directly on the CPQ code. He interested, he can still go and look at all the history, but he don't need to do at all. That's what I'm saying. That's the main.
He'll be getting final price on the CPQ.
Yes, they don't need to do all those things, right? What they are maintaining for product performance, uh, customer propensity to buy, plus all those. They don't need to do that. They will get the final price, and this is what the recommendation given by the optimized way of
What are the other factors? Like your history is one factor,
Yes,
optimized.
12 years
What are the other
history,
factors?
yes.
Like,
12 years of history, right?
Mhm.
12 quarters of the history, that means 3 years of history, that's the first, right? Because that is very important to understand that region guidance, right? Every region we come up with the guidance based on the product performance, right? That's the second part. Third is what is my company's guidance, right? Company, how much company can give the discount, right? That is also incorporated, right? That's the third, and then of course the competitor analysis, right? If my competitor, how much they are selling for the same, right? And that's why normalized. That there is a normalized as well. This price is a normalized. You will see that work normalized. If you see that work normalized, so normalized is like we analyze that and we give that for the 12 month, right? So normalized is like normalized for the 12 month. So initially, let's say last sale was 3 years, right? It was $100. Now we do that all analysis and then we give the okay. If somebody is going for the 3 year to 1 year, that means it is a reduction of the term, right? So in that case, it will be a little more costlier for them, right? Versus if they asking, hey, I'm going to be renew for the 6 year, in that case, price will be reduced, right? All those are the real-time analysis done by the AI. So everything, all those analysis will be done by the AI here.
This is good. Multi-year deals are always very complicated.
Yes.
So I like this.
You have to, yes,
Yeah.
you have to be, yes, basically.
so you do you have any hardware kind of products, which is a kind of manufactured products?
We are the subscription company,
Only
but
subscription.
yes, in OEM we work with like mostly like Cisco, Lenovo, Dell, right? So they sell their hardware along with our software, and then we can just package it and give it to the end customer.
Okay.
How hard is it to train the agent to do the analysis?
Data. If you have the rich data, it is very easy. If you don't have the data, right, then it will be taken more time, right? So train the agent is very easy if you have the good amount of data. The more data you given to the agent, the quickly he will learn and he will give the accuracy as well, right? So it is really depends on the data, and that's what the data layer is very important in any AI, I would say.
We have a very bad data in Salesforce.
Everybody has
That's
that.
Everyone.
Companies,
Yeah, I
problem.
know. So I'm also curious, like, how the analysis part is done when the data, we have enough data, but the quality is poor.
Yeah. For
Yeah,
that, I
that's
think
why they're selling data 360 now. I mean, if you want to really do that, then you have to go for that path. I've seen companies who they started like their Salesforce journey from scratch. They killed their org and they started from
Yeah,
scratch.
yeah. It has been done in our own, but still the data quality hasn't improved much. So it's a thing.
So you got 20 more minutes, okay?
oh yeah, sorry, I'll just wrap it
We have
very
to
fast.
leave this room by 5 o'clock.
Oh,
No worries. Okay, so this is a architecture. Basically, I'll just start with there is a three swimlane. You can see that, right? I'm just trying to explain the first, the EPA. So I'm assuming what is the EPA. Everyone knows that enterprise level agreement, right? So this enterprise agreement is slightly different than the what we're talking about, right? So as example, I have customer. I'm actually taking the same example, Walmart, and Walmart and my company has an agreement that hey, all those products I'm purchasing for less 5 years with this quantity, but you will give me only this discount, right? You will not increase discount within 5 years, right? That is EPI agreement. That is kind of the rules contract we have with them, right? When we put the analysis, we found that okay, we are selling the product for the Walmart, let's say 30%, but our analysis is we are asking them to give the 25% only, so that means we are losing a 5% there. Can we override that? Technically, EPA is the contract. We cannot, right? Because it's a contract basically. So that is why we also maintain the EPA. In case any customer we have good faith or good relation, we can honor that as well, right? That is also important. That is what we have the EPA. EPA maybe some customer may not have, some customer may have, but every time we put the analysis based on that customer, based on that product, we look at the EPA. Hey, is this customer has an enterprise agreement with our company, and is there any product that he's interested, right? That is what we maintain. That again, this is also within a Salesforce, right? So our ecosystem is mostly the Salesforce, by the way. And then I'll jump into the actual swim lane, where I look at it then very first. I cannot read it. I hope you guys are reading that. No, right? So you are okay.
Already.
So my question start with here, right? I look at the very first, right? Is that customer has the historical data, right? That means, is there any land and expand? Because we are putting this analysis optimization for behavior, right? As I mentioned earlier. So I need to check that if that customer with this product has any rich history or not, right? If there is no history, of course, those um, historical data cannot be available for that one. Then I have to be just put the different data, right? Based on that, we just go to the next one, right? Now here, as I said, the regional guidance, right? So you see that index in a renewable world, how we many says that index is the first gatekeeper, right? They can validate pricing mostly, right? And after that, finance and all those implementation, right? So in this one, we also given the override option, right? So as example, we come up with based on all our analysis, right? We come up with let's say 30%, but that is giving 35%, right? And then there is a chance that we lose the deal, right? Even though we have the guidance, there is a chance we losing a deal because competitor is giving them a 25%, right? So in that case, we also giving the option to override the discount, right? So this is where we are giving them option to override the work, and based on that override work, we also put the analysis of it, right? So here, what we are trying to do is, we are not wanted to dishonor the EP agreement. That's the very first. Second thing, is there any chances that even though we have the AI a recommendation, but we take the might be chances that we still using that deal, we can still override that, right? We just the case basis, right? That is what the real time decision we are making. And then here, as example, right? It's very bad. Actually, I cannot do it. Is there any way we can increase?
No, check the.
If not, I can share that with everyone. No, I don't see
Even
that.
on the screen, it's not that much visible.
Big sharpness.
why is it
Because of the light.
name?
Right?
I don't think so because of the light out the it's very blurry. Right, I can at least see here.
You can send it to us.
Yeah, I can share that, of course, with everyone. Anyway, we can continue, Manoj, if you want. Yeah, I think we don't need to mess up. Okay, so based on that, right, this was my all algorithm AI at the moment. You will see that here, I think, right. So here, based on the term, I think anyone knows the tier pricing, right? Tier pricing is like, a volume, right? So if I get the 100 quantity versus I get the 10 quantity, I'll get the discount, right? This is in the enterprise was they call it as a tiered pricing, right? We also consider the tier pricing. We also consider all what we discussed so far, right? Based on that, right? This is the main our algorithm where based on all those input, we get the and we calculate the basic unit price, and that base unit price plus discount will be fed to the CPU. And this is a CPU is what the tool where it will be served to that the renewal RQV team, right? The RQV team will get that right in the CPQ tools. Or you can have any CPQ tool. We also try about the CPQ tool. We have its own CPQ as well as we have a SFDC CPU as well, right? We integrated both, right? So the same guidance we share with the both team, and they utilize that as well, right? So the high level architecture is like, all those AI right now, and even they are learning more than what we are thinking, right? Based on the history, and then they are presenting that guidance to the CPQ team, and CPQ team just they don't need to, they don't use their brain right now. Instead of this all maintenance of the spreadsheet and all those things, they just need to go and just accept that unless they need to overwrite that based on the guidance, right? So this is how the high level architecture. Let me know if anyone has any
I
question.
have a question. In case of override, when we are not going with the AI suggestion, is there a separate approval?
Yes, that's exactly that's the override, right?
Yeah.
If you override the verb, right, and then there is the additional approval, right? Basically, to the only the Dildex and Dildex teams manager, basically, because they are the one only can override, not rep, right? Because rep can always override to win the deal, right? So to avoid that, the override will only applicable to the Dildex and Dildex manager only.
So those validation, I don't know, those blocks, who can do override? All that stuff is done in Salesforce, or is it part of this?
Yes, those override work is also that's what we created that profile earlier. Let me just show that as well. Basically, while right, if you see that here, there is a region guidance as well, right? And we are given as a profile, right? When we present that profile, here we are giving option to override that. So only Dildex can override that right before even the RQ team jump in, right? If there any override required based on the analysis, they will override that. System will update that override value here. You will see somewhere work override. Yeah, it is work actual work override, right? You see that. So as example, whatever the value recommended by the AI, if they don't want that, they can override that, and then this override value will be fed into the system. But before override, they need to go to approval process because this is not what the AI is recommending.
Right.
Any other question? All right. Okay. Okay, we talk about the architecture as well. This is what the high level architecture. And if you are interested, next will be the technical session. If everyone is we wanted to be look at that actually, that will be the kind of the hands-on all those things. So we can go that as well. You're too late. Okay, this was just a illustration purpose. Basically, how you treat that analysis and what are the recommendations, how the history we correcting, and based on that we analyze. This is just for the illustration purpose. And then to answer your question, right? In case Rep has any question, he still have access to look at all those. In case he has any question, right? There is a, I'm not sure there is a one-time discount concept as well, right? How many knows one-time discount, right? So there is one-time discount question, concept as well, right? If there any conflict with the one-time discount, basically, if you given the one-time discount in the land and expand, we should exclude that, right? We should not consider at the right time of renewal. This is the standard set process, right? So that is also in case he has any question, we have the the pricing profile created for that customer for that product. He can go back and say that, okay, is there any one-time discount? By the way, we also feed the one-time discount to the engine. Engine will exclude that because it should not be given that again and again, right? One-time discount is only one time, right? To win the deal, right? So that is also the profile access we have given to the RQ team, which is the renewal team. They can just go and look at the data. Okay, so in a final segment, why are we doing that and what impact it will bring to the business, right? Basically, again, as I said, right, it will increase the accuracy, right? We saw that, right? Various rep can give the various discount, which is not online. We have that AI driven recommendation, right? Which will be the universal standard, right? So we'll give the same discount, same pricing to almost every partners, right? Every customer. And then since we have come up with that standardized optimized process, there is a very less chances that code will be get rejected because we are using that guidance, right? Initially, in a traditional way, rep can throw any discount, right? It increase the chances of the rejection of that code, right? But here, it will very less chances that code will get rejected because of the all analysis done by the AI, and that's why the operational speed will increase, right? Initially, the sales cycle of the renewal was, let's say, 2 months, right? Because of the approval and all those things, now it will be reduced to the 1 month, right? So that is the operational speed also, right? The revenue growth, right? We saw that, right? I think it was 5,000, but the AI given that is 6,000. That means we are losing 1,000 there, right? That is what the revenue growth as well, right? Anyway, we are going to renew that, but renew with the higher price because of all those analysis, right? So revenue growth is also important. That is what we're bringing back to the company based on that AI. And then those different case studies. As I said, this case study or this framework work for any enterprise level, even the OEM partner. Anyone knows what is the OEM ecosystem? Original manufacturer. Okay, so OEM ecosystem is like, let's say Dell, Lenovo, Cisco, right? Those are the OEMs basically. What does mean, like, they sell their hardware with someone else.
Oh,
Software.
partners.
Yeah.
Someone will partner. Yes.
Oh.
So for them it is the partner, right? So in this case, right, they have their own customer base, right? Because they wanted to sell their hardware, but they don't have the software. They're bringing someone's software to run that, and then they sell it as a package, right? So in that case, right, they gave the separate code to their customer. This is a very good case for the OEM.
Sorry.
No worries. So this is a very good use case for the enterprise level as well as the OEM partner, where they don't need to be give the different code to the different, right? So it will be the unique code for the different partner, right? So if I'm the vendor and I have software, I'm selling with the, let's say, Dell as well as the Lenovo, I will have the universal code, right? So it very less chances to get conflict, right? So those kind of the use cases, I would say. There, of course, there are more use cases, but I'll just keep a very high level. Okay, what is the future of that pricing, right? Because we make so many integration in our life. I think everyone make at least 100 integration. How long we using? That's the question, right? Because if you use the stale data, there might chances that within 6 months we throw that and we bring it new concept, right? So because of this dynamic learning, right? No one storing data except the history, right? So those are the real time analysis, right? As I said, right? Every time renewal rep try to create the code, those are the real time analysis, right? That real time analysis with the add-on learning by the ML, right? Machine learning, they are always learn that, right? So that is what it will be the very, I think, the popular in the upcoming future. That it will be the dynamic learning. That is very right. Simulation is very important here, and I think I initially use case, right. What if the burp is overridden, right? What if the region guidance is different than the analysis, right? So simulation will be there, always there, right? It is not straightforward. I will say, hey, I have 10 rules. I'm going to give you the base on the 10 rules. It is not. It is learning, right? So that is what simulation is very important in the AI. That they will learn what is condition and accordingly they will put the recommendation, right? It is not like in a traditional way we give the system 10 rules and system will act as a that 10 rules. It's like that. It is based on the what if. So those simulation is very important in the AI and optimization. So that is also I think it will be very good feature in the future. And autonomous, that's basically fully automated, right? As I said, it will be served to the they don't need to do anything. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry, no, I didn't know. Can I ask question now or?
Yes, yes, go
No?
ahead.
Okay, sorry. I'm late, but I was interested in the what if pricing scenarios. The reason behind is when we do product pricing,
Mhm.
when we want to price a product,
Mhm.
there is pricing A, pricing B. So if we price A, put a product at a price A versus price B, will the simulation be able to test simultaneously both the scenarios and give a response? I have not used this at all, so
No, no,
but
it's
I'm
definitely
not pricing.
that's what the simulation will work as. And in my use cases, there is EPA. I think you initially missed that one, but I'll share that, right? So there is EPA, right? So as an example, in EPA case, let's say I have customer, that customer has agreement, and we agree that giving the 30%, right? But AI come up with the 25%. That means company is still losing that. But still we have to honor that contract. It's a contract. It's a legal thing. Right? In that case, simulation will be work that okay, I come up with the 30%, so 25%, but company is giving 30%, right? I have to be honor that, right? Those will be the simulation, right? That's one case. Second case, the region guidance, right? Every region based on the performance of that product, right? All this analysts, every region will have the different guidance, right? Let's assume that I'm selling that product, and then region guidance is, let's say, hypothetically 10%, right? Based on the terms and all those things. But AI comes with the different number, right? We have given the chance to override that as well. If that override value will be the stimulus, and that will be the based on the conditional, right? So that's how your use case is exactly implemented here. That even though AI comes with the price A, but is there any reason to have the price B? We still adopt that, right? And we adopt that, right? So that is what the simulation use case is.
Yeah, this was more of in terms of new product launches because we don't know how much we want to price exactly, and on top of that we are covering. On top of that, we are adding copay, we are adding insurance. Basically in healthcare. So I'm just wondering if that is possible here.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure if you have the recording.
Yeah, we are recorded entire
Oh, great.
session,
Yeah. So
so
this your use case is exactly the I earlier explained that. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
I have a question. So in simulations, it is saying right, pricing for different scenarios. So if in history, though, like suppose COVID years, everybody had a different experience in COVID years. So we don't want it to base it on terms of those to that history for the next year because that is not going to be same. But technically, our data still needs to be there. So how can that be done?
So basically, you wanted to be, let's say, skip the last year because
But we want the data to be used. Customer data we want to use.
that's what I mean. So those are the conditions, right? So as an example, you don't want to be present pricing from last 2 years because that was the COVID period, right? But the other factor is still there, right?
Yes.
The history of that product, right?
Yes.
Maybe not be 2 years, but earlier, right? Will be there. The regional guidance, which is the most recent, right? Company level guidance, that is what is supposed to be honored. EPA level, there are so many factors, right? It is not one factor make a decision, right? That's what implementations will be look at the each and every attribute, and then consolidate that, and they will come up with that. That is the learning. ML is what here is making that decision.
So I can chime in also.
Yeah.
You asked the price book, right? How do we use only like 2 years of data, not use complete historical data? Was that your question?
How is this?
I mean, this one is more automation where they have factors, right? The trend, the geography, and it's like it's natural event, right? How we can skip that? That's what more.
Exception rules. Maybe it was covered, but
Yeah, definitely.
exception rules.
Exceptions are there. We can.
Yeah.
Exception is also there, and that exception is nothing but our EPA in this use case, right? Because we are contractually given that discount, we cannot change that discount, right? So that is what the exception technically in that term. Any other question?
Yeah, probably you can have next session with the core technical, how it
Yeah,
built, how it works
Yeah.
with the use
yeah,
case.
definitely. I think that will be the more technical. This is very because we don't. If you don't understand the concept, then there is no point to go and then the implementation part, right? Okay, what we're taking at home today, right? What are your takeaway? Related to transformation, right? We all know that transformation reactive to the proactive, right? So, in my example, revenue rate, right? They will throw number based on his analysis, which is a very silo, right? That doesn't mean he is aligned with the company level and all those things, right? Because he wanted to, his goal is, I want to win the deal, right? No matter your company is lost, whatever I sold, I will get commission, right? That is my goal as a revenue rep. But it will be negatively impact the company, right? So that is what basically AI will give you the predictive. You don't have to be reactive, right? That's a very important takeaways, right? Second is the competitiveness margin, right? We saw that we are losing the $100,000 compared to the what actual work, what is the AI optimized work, right? So base unit price. So that's how the growth will be important for the company here. Of course, the aim is to how we improve the company-wide growth, right? So that is also the we're going to be, and of course, the competitive, right? Based on all those analysis, we know that what is my competitive is giving the discount. I should not give the more less than that, right? So that will be also be there, and then real-time integration is what the velocity, right? So we are doing everything. We are serving the plate to the RQE. He just need to accept that and click that. That's it, right? That will increase the approval, whatever the time, right? And increase the sales cycle, right? So that it was taking a lot of approval and all those things, it will reduce that, right? That will your sales cycle will be increased, right? And then friction, right? Of course, as I said, there is very less chances that you can reject that quote unless there is some conflict in the data, right? So that is how I would say it will be the very popular in the future. This use case, and I have published one paper on this topic as well. I think that paper is also published, right? So this is not only like any specific use case; it will be the very common framework, and I think a lot of companies are trying using that.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
I think with this, I will conclude that. Thank you very much. Thanks for your time. Thanks for listening.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Great.
Thank